When my vintage truck ignites in a fiery showdown, I realize that battling the HOA's power-hungry president is only the beginning of a hilariously absurd fight for individuality. As I stood there, fuming at the escalating war against my precious vintage truck, I couldn't help but wonder how my life had descended into the madness of suburbia warfare. There I was, a 34-year-old undercover agent, super spy extraordinaire by day and taco truck connoisseur by night, engaged in an all-out battle with the tyrannical Karen Whitmore. Seriously, if anyone had told me that my biggest adversary would be a platinum blonde middle-aged woman with a penchant for power, I would have laughed right in their face. But here I was, scrutinized like a contestant on an overzealous reality show, my truck adorned with violation notices that practically screamed, "Your dreams of classic rock reveries are over." In a neighborhood where even the birds seemed to chirp criticism, I was challenging the true taste of irony, and it was deliciously absurd. Now, let's talk about Karen's distorted sense of community. To her, community was a code word for controlling every ounce of creativity and individuality. Her stony gaze tore through me each time I stepped outside, practically weighing my flannel shirts and denim against her sterile vision of what a proper homeowner should look like. While I nurtured a love for my rusty truck, lovingly nicknamed Rusty Nail, Karen would invade my dreams armed with her clipboard, ready to issue citations over the color of my lawn. It was a tacit pact that HOA presidents like her made with the devil, combining small-town entitlement with authoritarian madness, all while clutching a sacred manual. My grunge chic was her worst nightmare, and it was clear that my vintage truck had become her personal crusade. Unsurprisingly, the sheer ridiculousness of it all sent waves of laughter through my fervent mind. But the real kicker? I was an undercover agent with critical missions at hand. I briefly glanced over at Jenna, craftily perched against her porch, sipping coffee and watching the spectacle. Her auburn curls bounced as she chuckled at my growing collection of violation notices, waving her hands dramatically, as if conducting an imaginary symphony of ridiculousness. "You'd think she has nothing better to do?" she joked, looking even more charming than usual in her oversized sweater that was doing a riveting job of keeping her warm and stylish. I could sense her rallied spirit rising against Karen. Together, we were plotting a strategic retaliation against our despotic HOA president. How mainstream media had never caught wind of this farce was beyond me. It was like a sitcom written for a special kind of madness. "You know what, Max? Let's turn those notices into a fashion statement. Maybe I can design a dress out of them." She laughed, and I couldn't help but smile. But this is where it gets wild. The day after Jenna's cheeky remark, I woke up to chaos. My truck, beloved, revered, and, yes, combustibly prone, had found itself flaring with an unexpected passion. What I didn't realize as I sipped my coffee, preparing a game speeches for my HOA showdown, was that Karen had enlisted the help of some unsavory characters. Apparently, she had more pull than I suspected, and let's just say, ideas in that mind of hers were downright explosive. Not only was I negotiating with a power-hungry homeowner, but now her lurking minions had turned my cheery little block into a battleground. It was like a scene out of an outrageous conspiracy film, and spoiler alert, the villain was armed not with a weapon, but with flaming entitlement. When I first saw the plume of smoke rising from my driveway, I swear the universe paused for dramatic effect. It was as if time itself was assessing all the absurdity and belched, "Serves you right, kid." My heart dropped as I rushed to the scene, and there it was, my prized Rusty Nail blazing with the ferocity of 1,000 suns. "In the name of all that is holy," I yelled, watching as fire licked the sides of my beloved truck, mocking my sense of order and tranquility like some cruel twist of fate. Upon seeing it engulfed in flames, I felt like a trapped cartoon character waiting for someone to come with a bucket of water or a fire extinguisher that came complete with a flashy HOA president-approved sticker. What was this? The summer festival of tragedy. Half the neighborhood had emerged to witness the flaming disaster, spectators gawking, cameras out, and steamy drama boiling over like a pot at the state fair. I caught a glimpse of Karen, standing smugly at the edge of the crowd, a glint of triumph in her cold blue eyes. "Guess that's one way to comply with the neighborhood standards," she cackled, hands on her hips as if I had orchestrated my own destruction in a grand display of irony. In that moment, standing beside my smoldering truck, I knew two things. One, this was definitely being recorded for the Neighborhood Watch channel, and two, as an undercover agent, Karen had unknowingly stumbled into my life mission by turning my basic violation notice into a headline-worthy explosion. What should I do next? Call the fire department, or unleash my undercover spy prowess against an HOA president who clearly had declared war on vintage vehicles. But what Karen didn't realize was that no one sets my truck ablaze without facing the consequences, especially when I possess the uncanny skills to stick it to the entitled. This newfound firepower was both literal and metaphorical, and I was ready to show her that you do not mess with someone whose heart beats for rust and rebellion. Okay, Karen, I mumbled under my breath, determination fueling every word. Game on. The neighborhood battle lines were clearly drawn, and I had a sinister plan fueling my every move. What was the point of covert operations if not to combat the absurdities of life head-on? Bring it on, you flaming dictator of garden gnomes. What was Karen's next move? Would she deploy lawn flamingos in the name of HOA justice, or play it cool amid the chaos? Only time would tell as my undercover life blended with neighborhood mayhem in the most ridiculous way possible. As the fire department arrived, lights swirling like a bizarre disco party, I realized that things had officially spiraled out of control. Yet, deep within the swirling smoke, a sinister smile tugged at my lips. My misfortune had attracted an audience, and now it was time to rally my fellow homeowners. A spectacle of flaming despair might just light the fuse for my taco truck festival. The distant roar of the engines blended eerily with the laughter of my neighbor across the street, who stood filming the wild scene with gleeful abandon. "Oh, I've got to post this on the Neighborhood Watch's website," she chuckled, and I had to give her credit. The drama was spectacular in its absurdity. Did I just become an accidental reality star? With the fire finally under control, I stood, dazed and slightly singed, facing down the smirking Karen who seemed to walk away, her self-satisfied strut insinuating she had orchestrated my truck's spontaneous combustion herself. "Care for a cup of gasoline, Max?" she jeered, raising a glass of who knows what, like some twisted toast to my misfortune. Oh, the audacity! I might have been a beacon of chaos, standing beside the charred remains of Rusty Nail. But I was not about to fold under the intensity of her titanic entitlement. People like Karen made individuals like me crave a sense of rebellion buried beneath endless homeowner bylaw. "Guess we'll see whose taco truck festival kicks more ass, Karen," I retorted, my voice barely concealing a hint of defiance, the seeds of rebellion already germinating in my mind. Fast forward 2 days, and I was back in my living room drafting a letter that would go down in HOA history. It was part formal communiqué, part middle finger to the absurdities I'd faced, all wrapped in the style of an exuberant rallying cry. "Dear Karen Whitmore and esteemed HOA board," it began with a smirk. "Thank you for your recent violation of my right to own a non-combustible vehicle, which is clearly offensive to your vision of a cookie-cutter utopia. Oh, the satisfaction of penning sarcastic lines about Karen's unfortunate garden of monochrome shrubbery, which, let's be real, could have doubled as a set piece for a dystopian art installation. I was inciting neighbors, typing them into rebellion like a composer orchestrating a symphony of defiance. Next, I turned to my trusty ally Jenna, who was busy daydreaming about designing violation notice couture. By the time we'd finished brainstorming, we had whipped up a plan that would outshine Karen's ambition to eradicate individuality. Taco trucks, big, bold, and brightly painted, would fill our street for a culinary festival combined with a rally against the HOA. "We can make this a beautiful celebration of diversity, literally wrapped in tortillas," Jenna quipped, her eyes alight with mischief. I could feel her spirited infectiousness spreading across the room, as our neighborhood became a canvas for culinary defiance where individuality would be celebrated. Supreme taco toppings and all. When word spread of the festival, a captivating buzz electrified the otherwise stifling neighborhood air. It was as if I had ignited a spark of rebellion across the silent cacophony of Karen's oppressive iron grip on our lives. Neighbors who had once avoided confrontation now peeked out from behind curtains, awash in curiosity, whispering tales of rebellious taco glory. Suddenly, even the most timid residents felt emboldened to join the cause. A street filled with vibrant food trucks was infinitely more appealing than sequestered living under the iron thumb of the HOA. Once again, absurdity was serving as the gloss on our covert operation. And really, who doesn't love a great taco party? The day of the festival arrived, and I nearly fainted from excitement. Trailers of taco trucks vibrant with colors lined the street, and I could swear the smell of cumin and cilantro wafted through the air like a rebellion anthem. People flocked in droves, faces alight with joy, united by a love of tacos and a disdain for Karen's monochrome vision of our neighborhood. Even the shy neighbor from the back who usually mowed his lawn in hushed terror arrived clutching a heaping bowl of guacamole, ready to partake in this culinary revolution. There was no opportunity for HOA stifling to ruin our day. This was a victory for us all. And as I surveyed the crowd reveling in the festival, a far cry from the disdainful notions of conformity, I spotted Karen, attempting her best to blend into a backdrop of taco enthusiasm, a scowl plastered across her well-combusted face. I almost felt bad for her, sort of. Almost. The sight was deliciously ironic given that I hadn't set the flaming blush of embarrassment on her. She'd ignited a fire in me. The only thing more satisfying than the taco-flavored retribution was knowing we had conjured this joyous spectacle amidst her rule of uniformity. But amid the laughter and camaraderie, I chuckled to myself as I realized that Karen hadn't seen the last of me. The road ahead might be paved with several more layers of spatulas, salsa, and possibly even more vehicular mischief under the HOA's righteous scrutiny. What absurdity lay around the corner? The thumping bass of festive mariachi music flooded the street, like a vivacious wave demanding attention. I reveled in the sight of my neighbors venturing out with their foldable chairs and colorful aprons emblazoned with taco-related puns, an army ready for battle against the blandness Karen had prescribed. Each brave soul was a burrito bomb clad in smiles, enthusiasm, and a heaping dollop of defiance. Kids darted past me, their laughter intertwining with the sizzling sounds of tacos cooking on grills, little ninjas armed with candy in one hand and joy in the other. My sense of glee ascended skyward like an overinflated balloon on festival day, and honestly, I had no idea how delicious rebellion could be until now. My living room wall might be charred and dented from Karen's crazy antics, but this festival was a glorious, vibrant testament to everything Karen sought to erase. With each taco devoured, our neighborhood morphed into a tapestry of camaraderie, stitched together with bright colors and the irresistible aroma of fresh cilantro, bursting beans, and sizzling meats. I glanced over at Jenna as she swooped around like a taco-loving tornado, her enthusiasm challenging gravity itself. Max, do we have any piñatas left? Because I think we need to introduce Karen to some delightful target practice. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, as if the idea itself was too ludicrous to contain. If I didn't know better, I would think she just birthed a master plan to embrace chaos in the most colorful way possible. Before I could respond, she was sprinting away to gather supplies, leaving me standing amidst throngs of people donning sombrero hats and oversized taco costumes, each a symbol of our accumulated rebellion. Amid the feasting and festivity, I spotted Karen lurking by the periphery, her presence resembling a storm cloud drifting dangerously close to our party. There she stood, dressed in her typical prim attire, a manageably pressed blouse that screamed control and iron-fisted authority. I marveled at the audacity of her character, showing up to our jubilant taco affair armed with nothing but spite and a face like a discontented cat. She could use a taco or a transformation, I whispered to Jenna as we spotted each other over the heads of valiantly munching neighbors. The audacity of this woman, intent on dampening our fiesta vibes, is actually starting to feel like a twist in a cheesy sitcom. I laughed, and Jenna grinned wickedly, hatching plans beneath her curly auburn hair. Oh, how I wished for just one pea-shooting, confetti-launching, piñata-stuffing scheme to rain down on her gloom. Fueled with an audacious spirit, we devised the ultimate plan with inspired zeal. The piñata would not only symbolize the suppression of our joys, but also deliver a blow to the absurdity of Karen's audacity. We crafted a heavily decorated taco-shaped piñata, bursting with candies, confetti, and maybe a sprinkle of HOA regulations just for a laugh. The pièce de résistance? A strategically placed violation sticker aimed right at her hairline. As the moment approached, the countdown began from our makeshift stage of folding tables surrounded by taco aficionados. I could feel exhilaration shoot through the air. I took up the piñata stick like Willy Wonka wielding a chocolate factory, ready to drown out Karen's sour expression with the flavors of joy. 3, 2, I could barely hear the crowd over my heartbeat, each pulse promising freedom from Karen's relentless grip. With a swing that echoed through the taco-scented air, the piñata exploded in a colorful chaos that rivaled any disaster movie. Gummies rained on the crowd like sugary hail while laughter erupted in joyful exclamations, transforming our street into a palpable celebration. Karen's expression morphed from one of disdain to utter disbelief as scattered bits of confetti clung to her perfectly coiffed bob. I nearly doubled over with laughter, a vision of glorious victory flashing before my eyes. She looked like a piñata victim herself, standing there amidst the beautiful wreckage, and for a glorious moment, all I could think about was tossing her a taco. "Welcome to the revolution, Karen," I hollered, my voice blending with the collective delight of our newfound freedom. As the chaos subsided, Jenna and I high-fived as we watched the neighborhood revel in our defiant fiesta. Karen, now the unlikely centerpiece of our colorful taco-strewn drama, fidgeted with her clipboard, the embodiment of a fiery Karen who just stepped into a world of spontaneity she'd never encountered. Her disapproval hung in the air like a miasma, cloyingly thick and absurdly out of place amidst our joyous rebellion. But deep down, it fueled my fire. I vowed that this was just the beginning. What comes next? I thought, securing my resolve while taking in every friendly face surrounding me, each representing what we were fighting for. As the sun dipped low, painting a canvas of orange and crimson, I realized this was just my first escapade. As both a homeowner and a covert operator, this feisty taco takeover had awakened something within me that I didn't know was buried beneath the weight of HOA bylaw. Who would have thought that my concept of community service would sprout from a meal that blended zest with zest? It would be a culinary revolution. The echoes of our laughter promised anticipation as I braced myself for the inevitable showdown that would follow the fiesta. How far could I push Karen's entitled absurdity before she erupted? What would the next installment of this saga bring? The stage was set for yet another round of outlandish confrontation. Would there be more taco trucks? Perhaps a chia pet lawn ornament war? Who knew how this absurdity would unfold? The next morning, the cacophony of celebratory tacos was replaced by the ominous glow of smoldering embers, remnants of my favorite truck reduced to a haphazard pile of charred remains. What fresh twisted sorcery is this? I sputtered, while staring at the wreckage of what had once been my trusty steed. I felt a pinch of nostalgia mixed with an operating soldier's resolve, as if I had just lost the battle but not the entire war. The neighborhood looked eerily calm, as if all the joyous spirit from the night before had been swept away by a broom-wielding Karen herself. As I inspected the aftermath, the absurdity of the entire ordeal struck me like a brick made of piñata candy. How could she have thought this would make our community safer? Did she mistake my truck for an abandoned UFO emitting toxic fumes that disrupt her chronically unhappy aura? Jenna appeared out of thin air, curly auburn hair shining in the morning light, her expression a blend of concern and mischief. Max, I think we might have escalated the feud from taco level to nuclear. We need to take immediate action. Her voice carried that signature bounce as if she were rallying a team before the big game. I mean, look at it, she exclaimed, gesturing dramatically at the scorched remains. Are we sure Karen isn't just testing out her neighborhood safety procedures in some twisted performance art? At this rate, her next target will be my potted plant collection. The juxtaposition of her somber expression and the absurdness of the situation nearly made me lose my breakfast, but I quickly recovered. Realizing the opportunity lying in the ashes of my once prized possession, an idea sparked in my mind so bright it could outshine the sun. This is it, Jenna. This is my undercover agent justification moment, I excitedly declared, my heartbeat quickening. Instead of wallowing in despair over my truck or plotting revenge, though both are pretty great ideas, I can turn this into an investigation into Karen's HOA mischief. If they're going to take my truck, I'm taking the fight to her. And not just on a taco level. Jenna's eyes lit up, and I could practically see gears turning, her mind racing ahead like caffeinated squirrels on a sugar high. What should we do? She urged, leaning into my unexpected fervor. I sprang into action, no longer just a victim but a man on a mission. We gather intel! I need to comb through the HOA guidelines, find out what illegal stipulations Karen has been enforcing. I could already envision becoming a neighborhood legend, Max Henry, the undercover hero fighting HOA tyranny. I imagined stealthily reading rules and regulations under the cover of darkness while armed with nothing but a highlighter and a commitment to snarky commentary. I'd post sticky notes on her neighborhood safety bulletin board with wayward corrections to her ludicrous bylaws. A delicate mix of rebellion and humor would make for a captivating story. That afternoon, armed with my trusty laptop and an ego replenished by taco-induced joy, Jenna and I set up shop at my now delightfully charred, still on fire in a metaphorical sense living room. Max, there's nothing like a little tahini to spice up the push against tyranny, Jenna quipped, her head buried in her own device as she scoured the HOA's website. A half-hearted snort escaped my throat. I realized that we were delving into an entirely new level of absurdity. After hours of strategizing, we compiled a list of Karen's vigilance, crazed decrees. I never knew the fine for an unwatered lawn was so outrageously steep. Is she attempting to be a drought enforcer or a neighborhood dictator? The following day, inspired by our findings and fueled by the remnants of taco celebration energy, I donned my undercover garb, swapping jeans for cargo shorts, and a graphic tee proclaiming, "I'm with stupid," with an arrow pointing upward. Apparently, I was going full 30-something neighbor doing amateur sleuthing, equipped with my modified Bluetooth headset, fully prepared to document each HOA violation Karen had meticulously orchestrated. Jenna, adorned in her brilliantly human-sized taco costume, because who doesn't play dress-up amidst chaos, joined the operation. Good vibes prevailing as we approached Karen's HQ, aka her overpriced house one street over. As we strolled casually past the curb, I turned my focus to the tight-lipped aura of Karen, clad in her signature authoritative attire, clipboard grasped like a scepter of doom. "Shall we blend in or launch the full-on attack?" I whispered, barely containing laughter. Jenna, always the sassy sidekick, gave me a thumbs up. "Let's aim for understated chaos." With that, we launched our plan, each accumulating data while laughing like lunatics and guerrilla documenting HOA absurdity along the way. Would we defeat Karen's iron grasp on our community? Would we save our glorious taco-loving lives from her looming tyranny? In that potent moment, fueled by humor and courage, I felt ready to go to war. Was it safe to say that my life was definitely spiraling into a vibrant, crazy quilt of mischief? What will happen when Karen realizes that I am not just some unsuspecting resident, but a spy on a mission for the greater good? The tension, the laughter, and a revelation of a lifetime awaited me in the chaotic saga that was just beginning. As Jenna and I marched towards Karen's castle of HOA injustices, I couldn't help but feel a surge of adrenaline. It was as if I was embarking on the undercover operation of a lifetime, my mission to root out the madness festering in our beloved neighborhood. "Are you ready for this?" I grinned mischievously at Jenna, who was swaddled in her oversized taco costume like an enthusiastic burrito. I could see the smirk curling on her lips, a deadly weapon in our arsenal against entitlement. "Oh, I was born ready for a taco-inspired coup," she shot back, strutting ahead like a well-seasoned revolutionary. I had to admit, the outfit was giving her an extra boost of confidence, making each radical step towards our target even more hilarious. As we approached Karen's pristine lawn, the grass so impeccably green it could only have germinated from a government conspiracy, I steeled myself. There she stood, clipboard in hand, scrutinizing the community as if it were a flat tire she needed to fix. Her power trip is about to hit an iceberg, I thought, practically drooling with anticipation. We stealthily positioned ourselves behind a fictional bush. Okay, it was just a strangely placed garden gnome that was actually just a gnome without any real purpose. Armed with hidden foot-long notepads and ready for a showdown, I felt like a lion ready to pounce on unsuspecting prey, or perhaps a slightly clumsy cat trying to sneak up on its owner, turning every moment into a potential snooze fest. Jenna eagerly skittered away, guerrilla documenting as she spotted a sign declaring, "Unattended dogs equals 250 fine. Can you believe this?" she squealed in faux amazement. She really thinks that a stray pup is worth more than my car. Should we just start nominating Karen for the neighborhood's Duchess of Absurdity Award? Watching Jenna work was like witnessing a culinary genius concocting a gourmet meal out of the strangest ingredients. Her ability to dig into the ridiculousness was both alarming and inspiring. In the moment, I felt buoyed by a sense of purpose that was equal parts unbelievable and fabric spontaneously tearing into a visual chuckle. Just as we started collecting evidence of Karen's extravagant rulership, I heard the unsettling sound of her heels clacking, as if each tap were a harbinger of doom demanding order. "Max, look out!" Jenna shrieked, a comedic undertone erupting from her taco suit as she dove into a bush. My glorious plan teetered at the edge of disaster. I ducked behind the gnome, internally grappling with the reality that it was my social status on the line, and possibly admitting I was the neighborhood dork. Of course, she'd think I was just another moppy-haired tech guy obsessing over his comparably mundane life choices. But I wasn't just any man. I was an undercover agent. I could practically hear the theme music from a spy film building in the background. If I could get through this unscathed, I might just nab my ticket into the annals of neighborhood lore. Karen's steely gaze pierced through our disguise, her blue eyes rotating like laser beams pinpointing our location. "I know you're lurking out there, Max," she thundered, voice ringing out with the authority of a million HOA decrees. I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of hilarity and terror wash over me, a defining moment ripe for comedic exploration. Jenna whispered, "Max, it's time for a legendary distraction." I could see her wheels churning, and she was right. I scrambled behind the gnome, preparing for some wild, undercover spy drama. Forget stealth, I declared with delight. It's time for an unplanned improv performance. I might not have an Oscar-winning voice, but I could certainly channel my inner showman. Jenna launched out from behind her very own taco fortress, tension slipping away as she rolled into an exaggerated slapstick skit, complete with twirling and dramatic gestures. Oh dear, what fresh HOA tomfoolery is this? She exclaimed, her taco costume flailing about like some wayward flag demanding war. You couldn't script this kind of madness, she was nailing it. Suddenly, laughter stifled Karen's ranting nature as I busted out, announcing with flair, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an HOA queen in our midst." A blend of incredulity and amusement cascaded over the scene as Karen faltered, and I seized the moment. And let me remind you, it's a felony to be this ridiculously overzealous about taking care of plants. Jenna chimed in, fueling the fire between our comedic banter. Caught off guard, Karen sputtered indignantly, gripping her clipboard as if it were her only lifeline in the ocean of mutual absurdity slowly filling up around her. You think this is funny? She shot back, a mixture of confusion and indignation dancing in her voice. You're trivializing my efforts to enforce community safety. Gazing at her heated expression, I realized she didn't grasp the fundamental truth that her petty grievances were the fuel for our wild crusade. If you thought my truck was an eyesore, wait until you see my legal skills, I retorted, arms akimbo, channeling my most imposing agent vibe. I'm going to ensure that this HOA garbage comes to a halt, one hilarious episode at a time. Suddenly, the void filled with absurd humor turned into a battleground of sarcastic retorts and incredulous laughter. Who would have thought my disastrous morning would shuffle itself into this masterpiece of unexpected chaos? With the knowledge we had gathered, rooster calls of laughter seemed to amplify as Jenna and I rallied the other homeowners, forging an alliance built on indignation and fueled by a ridiculous taco costume. Would we topple the towering regime of Karen Whitmore and reroute this HOA madness forever? I can already hear the laughter echoing in our future community gatherings. That was my open door, my opportunity to finally stand up against an extravagant reign of entitlement in the neighborhood, fueled by noodle-armed taco power. What delightful mischief would my undercover duties lead me to next in this madcap story? It was bound to get even crazier from here. The laughter roared, ricocheting off the pristine picket fences as the absurdity of our encounter exploded like an overly eager fireworks display. In the middle of this comedic uproar, Karen's dismay transformed from bluster to a perplexed challenge. "You'll rue the day you laughed at my authority, Max," she exclaimed, flailing her clipboard menacingly, as if that flimsy piece of paper were some kind of ancient scroll bestowing her with ultimate power. I couldn't help it. I snorted in response, imagining her as some dictator fumbling her way through an over-the-top villain monologue, complete with bad accents. As if sensing her waning grip on control, Karen launched her counterstrike. "You think this can go unchecked? I have the bylaws on my side," she declared, her finger stabbing the air with exaggerated ferocity. It was hard not to crack up at her tone. She sounded like someone who had just discovered that the world didn't revolve around her meticulously curated garden schedules. Jenna, caught up in the moment, clutched her stomach, doubled over in a fit of laughter. "Bylaws? You mean the ones like no orange flowers after 5 p.m.? What's next? A ban on our individual happiness." In that beautifully chaotic moment, I realized we were building something bigger than taco costumes and ridiculous remarks. This was a movement for our neighborhood, a counteroffensive against the prevailing absurdity. The residents had started to gather, drawn in by the noise and a sense of camaraderie sparked by our antics. I spotted old Mrs. Henderson, a retired librarian, watching with mirthful glee, her cat-shaped glasses perched precariously on her nose and a tub of popcorn in her lap. She was already the unofficial referee for our spontaneous dramatics, ready to chronicle this showdown as if it were Shakespearean theater, Taco V's tyranny. The HOA Chronicles could be in her notes, albeit with a few puns. Then it struck me. I had insider knowledge from my agency about how to rally people together, almost like I had stumbled upon the secret textbook of neighborhood rebellions. "Ladies and gentlemen," I bellowed, using my best deep commanding officer voice, "let's turn this farce into a fiesta. Where's our Taco Tuesday banner?" Seizing the moment, I glanced at Jenna, and she nodded sagely. Instinctively, we waved aside a few nosy bystanders to make space for our impending artistic explosion. I whipped out a roll of fabric I had mysteriously stashed in my truck, thank you, Undercover Lifestyle, and together with Jenna, we created an improvised sign, Taco Tuesday for Freedom. The original tension hung like a heavy fog, but soon it began to dissipate, swept away by epiphanies of humor and camaraderie. Spontaneous giggles erupted from the audience as they cottoned onto the rebellious spirit swirling in the air. People were roused. Even Karen's allies seemed uncertain, standing on the fringes with raised eyebrows caught somewhere between support and incredulity. Through a cacophony of laughter and half-hearted yawns, I could see the tide turning slowly in our favor. Amidst Karen's desperate disapproval, her authority began to wane, and for the first time, I could see doubt chiseled into her petulant expression. "Is this seriously happening?" Karen muttered, hands clenched over her clipboard, her brows furrowed like she was trying to solve an unsolvable riddle. "Are you all really endorsing this childish behavior?" Until that moment, I didn't realize how amusing it would be to see him struggling to make sense of an existence filled with tacos and frivolous protests. "Why, yes," exploded from Jenna's mouth, arm flailing like she'd just finished a salsa dance. "Every Tuesday, we the people of this neighborhood shall consume tacos freely and without reproach. In fact, I suggest we create a taco truck fund." Cheers erupted, the lightheartedness of the laughter fueled by a collective yearning to free ourselves from the clutches of tyranny, one crispy taco at a time. As our fearless compatriots joined the fray with rallying cries of support, emulating our silliness in various forms, I could feel a sense of belonging forming before my very eyes. The HOA board meetings I once dreaded were transforming into an entertaining showcase for hijinks and eco-friendly protests, where the art of absurdity was about to elevate our everyday lives. I had my trusty taco army behind me, and I knew that even if Karen tried to pounce on our newfound spirit with her bylaw-slaying papers, she wouldn't have a chance. After all, a united neighborhood had the power of 1,000 lawn gnomes, each fending off tyranny with its own bizarre brand of whimsy. "All right, taco warriors," I called out, flushed with adrenaline. "Are we ready to unleash the power of tacos to stand up against unreasonable rules and Karen's blatant power tripping?" The reply was a thunderous cheer. With laughter in the air and odd costumes aplenty, we were not just facing Karen, we were redefining our neighborhood narrative in the light of tacos and quirky spirits. What awaited us next? What further depths of HOA madness might we uncover? One thing was for sure. There wouldn't be a dull moment ahead in this high-stakes saga of liberty and lettuce. The air crackled with electric energy, a perfect blend of anticipation and absurdity. I stood on an improvised wooden crate, an unwilling arbiter of taco-related freedoms, feeling like I'd somehow been thrust into the role of an underqualified political leader. Jenna, my most hilarious partner in a politically incorrect crusade, had draped herself in a taco print blanket, waving it like a flag of rebellion. Around us, a crowd of neighbors I'd never even shared a nod with now rallied in joyful chaos, their spirits alight with the prospect of defying the tyranny of Karen Whitmore. "Taco Tuesday is our right," someone hollered from the back, and I had to stifle a grin while resisting the urge to choke on a bite of my own cheesy goodness. I hadn't signed up for this taco revolution, but here we were. Me, the undercover agent turned neighborhood mascot, embracing an unexpected watch of festive insurrection. Across the street, Karen appeared to be boiling over with rage, the fiery red flushing her cheeks, an alarming contrast to her signature beige slacks. She held her clipboard like it was a sword, which was even funnier considering she looked more like a medieval knight at a buffet, trying to maintain the honor of her overstuffed tabulated rules. "I will not stand for this kind of childishness," she bellowed. But even her authoritative voice faltered against the laughter of us taco warriors. "You all are too old to behave like this." It was the perfect encouragement for Jenna to jump in, her auburn curls bobbing as she grabbed attention with a dramatic twirl. "Wait, Karen, are you saying we should all just succumb quietly to your tyrannical flower ordinances? What's next? Fireworks control?" The moment hung in the air, charged with a falsified seriousness that only made everyone nearby dissolve into laughter once more. With every passing moment, our numbers swelled. Newfound comrades crossing the manicured lawns, their eyes positively gleaming beneath the weight of Karen's pending defeat. Mrs. Henderson even emerged, gliding over with her cat-shaped glasses, slipping popcorn pieces like secret weapons into her apron pocket. She hugged her prized tabby, and I was convinced that she had concocted an entire front of protest for felines against unreasonable HOA bylaws. "Oh, the story's all right about this," she chuckled, flexing her writing fingers like a rough around the edges journalist. "Oh yes, if this had turned into a spectacle worthy of the dramatic arts, it deserved its own Oscar." This was a community staging a feed-your-soul fiesta while marching toward a ridiculous revelation, a taco-powered revolution that Karen never saw coming. Suddenly, a thought began bubbling like a pot of boiling cheese. Let's set up a taco truck right here. It tumbled from my lips with excitement, and the crowd erupted with visceral enthusiasm. Jenna caught on quickly. Yes, a taco truck. Why don't we have an event to celebrate our peculiar victory? We could call it the Great Tacos versus Tyranny Festival. Squeals filled the air as we collectively envisioned a culinary escapade destined to transform our community square into an Epicurean battlefield, with Karen at the heart of it all, likely clutching her clipboard as if it were a consolation prize. To her absolute horror, the thought of vibrant decorations, food trucks lining the lane, and local musicians cranking up the atmosphere seemed to slice through her authoritative bravado like a serrated knife through a tortilla. Karen's confidence withered as we animated many of her once loyal supporters. Smug, yes-oh absolutely nods turned into doubtful, guilty glances. I watched as her reign unraveled like a taunt unraveling at the corner of a kid's birthday party. People, listen! She tried to regain lost ground, voice trembling in an uncharacteristically human way. You're willing to risk HOA compliance for a taco festival? Have you lost your minds? But the rebuttal from the crowd was swift and jubilant. The tacos held sway over her bureaucratic bluster. Tacos, Karen. You cannot put a moratorium on happiness wrapped in a tortilla. Jenna chimed in with such zest I could have sworn I saw a few people raise their hands, as if attending a worship service dedicated to taco-based liberty. I had to keep a straight face as I thought about the angsty HOA meeting we never anticipated yet desperately needed. As we spun this fiesta of transformation, I felt a surge of energy run through me, a sense of rebellion tied with laughter and avocado-laden hopes. Actually, can guacamole be quantified as hope? Maybe? Either way, the easy camaraderie woven from laughter became a shield against Karen's overblown use of authority, one I'd never considered before in my undercover full-time life. What began as a militant HOA confrontation morphed into a vibrant tapestry of shared joy. And now even I, Max Henry, the undercover agent, was swept up in this glorious tidal wave of resistance. This was the ultimate unexpected reward. Taco Tuesday became our literal battle cry, an aluminum foil-covered liberator that bound us against the absurdity of entitlement personified. So, as the sun began to dip behind Karen's meticulously landscaped hedges, we cheered our disruptive banner, anchored by real community spirit and delicious tacos. Who would have thought our quest to reclaim our neighborhood rights would cement in my mind what truly makes America great? Are we ready to show Karen the true strength of taco diplomacy? I hollered, my heart racing with excitement and fervent laughter. The crowds echoed my exuberance. The firefighters on standby were already planning which T-shirt they'd spray, in defiance of Karen's clutches. I couldn't contain the bubbling anticipation. By the end of the night, we'd be celebrating the unshackling of camaraderie. The pall of dictatorial bylaws had been overwritten with the joy of tacos. Victory belonged to the absurd. Little did I know that tonight would herald not just the power of seasoning, but of a community united, forever bonded by the most unlikely of heroes, a taco.